So this week I wanted to put a technical companion together with the podcast where I talked about that Instagram model where there's people actually making money off of an AI generated model. But in order to do that, you have to have something consistent, and that's the face. You'd want your body to be consistent as well, but let's talk about the face today. One thing you'll notice if you just have the AI generate a face is a lot of times it will make that face look very, very similar to what you've already seen with minor modifications. Now, you could change the age and things like that that'll make some changes to it, but there's not a lot of difference amongst these faces. There are differences, but for the most part, and this is what I saw with a lot of them, they're based off of a set of pictures, and that set of pictures has a face. So what you get from them is that basically that face back merged together with the other ones, but basically it's a similar process. Now, one way to make sure that you get a unique face is to put in a prompt where you put in a couple of actors or actresses so that you get variety. Now, obviously, you don't want it to be that actress or that actor. So by putting it in like this, with the parentheses around it and a pipe between it, what you've done is set that up so that it's going to blend those two faces together. What that'll give you is a unique face that's neither of them. But bear in mind that some of them do look an awful lot like one or the other of the feeder prompt. So let's take a look at that. Again, you want to run multiple versions of it because you may see things that are problematic in the image. Could be bad teeth, could be something similar to that you're going to see. But again, you want to make sure that what you're getting is a clean image. But one of the things to look for if you're trying to get just a face is the hair. Now, if you're doing faces, maybe you want to go bald. But what's going to happen is some of the models are going to interpret that hair as part of the face. Now, models get better all the time, so this will become less of an issue. But here, where you have the actual hair falling down to the eyebrows, that could be an issue when it goes through and tries to map this face. And we'll get into that in a second. Here's another example of where we've mapped a pair of faces together. And these came out pretty well. Again, the hair could be an issue depending on how the model associates that hair when it falls over part of the face. If it's framing the face, that makes for a better face model to use for what's going forward here. And you might notice some problems again, like with the eyes don't look quite right here, things like that. So if you're going to generate them, don't just generate a single one. Make sure that you've generated multiple copies. I tried to go with 10, and I did a mix and match of a whole bunch of actresses redoing it, so column A, column B type of thing, and let it run through and generate about 1,000 images for me to work from. But let's talk about how we get this to actually work. So in Stable Diffusion, the thing you want to use is ROOP. ROOP is going to allow you to take a face and use that face in your image. What you do is simply drag the face that you want to use and drop. Click Enable. Now, there's another tip to use here, and that is if you're going to use a face, cut off the face from the rest of the image. And that's because what you want to do is you want to make sure that ROOP has as little to work with as possible. So by trimming it to just the face, it takes away all the other distractions that might be associated with that image. The other thing to do when you've got it in there is make sure you click Enable, because obviously it comes up not enabled. Choose your model. I usually use GFP GAN for it. And what this is going to do is generate, based off of your text input, an image. And then ROOP will then fire off afterwards to map the face onto what you generated. And depending on how you've got it set up, you can get before and afters on it as well. Another thing to bear in mind is as you're running these through, you may end up with a better looking face, something that has less distraction around it from one of the generated images, and you can always replace the face with that and then use it going forward. Now, this would have been important for that Instagram AI model because you want her to look the same. And the only way to do that is to make sure that you've mapped the face over that person. So whatever gets generated by the prompt, the face is always going to be replaced by whatever you've used, in this case, in ROOP. So that's how you make sure that the face is always the same. Next week, we'll talk about posing, where you can actually create a pose. So another thing that they've probably done with theirs is not just rely on the prompt to give it the correct pose that they wanted, but to actually generate a pose and then use that over and over again. So next week, we'll talk about open pose and things. But again, generate a bunch of images so that you have a series of faces that you can use. Then once you've done that, go through them, pick out the one or ones that you want to try, put it into ROOP after you've cropped it down to just the face, and then generate based off of your prompt and see how it looks, because you also want the face to match the body, etc. So if you do that, you'll be able to generate an AI model that has a consistent face. Where I use it is, again, when you're doing boudoir, it's very intimate. So in order to not put somebody's intimate photos up, for example, a posing guide, I will go through and generate what I want, poses, etc. Take a face or two so that it's consistent across them, and then change the prompting out so that I get what I'm looking for. Now, when I say change the prompting, it's basically change the outfit that they're wearing, etc. If I'm doing something that I want to put out as an ad for something, then there's certain restrictions on top of that. And that would be to take one of these images and replace a piece of lingerie with a one-piece swimsuit, for example, because certain marketing ad props will not allow you to do that kind of work. So that's what I got for you this week. And again, next week, we'll take a look at posing and how we can do that to add even more of what we envision the image to be to the image on top of and in place of, in a lot of cases, prompting. And I'll talk to you guys next.